Welcome back, everyone. Today's like aim is 1,000 likes, and I know that you will complete it in no time. If you haven't watched the previous part, the link is in the description. Outside the cave, Se-jun, Ox 3, and Ox 4, along with the wolf mercenaries and the mama bear and the baby bear, were sitting together discussing. We see that the baby Quang was crying on the floor, not happy that Se-jun was going towards the Waypoint without taking him with them. Quang wanted to go with his dad too, and was not ready to calm down. Meanwhile, Se-jun asked Theo if he loaded a lot of green onions for the journey. Hearing that, Theo replied that he had packed a ton of them with the help of the wolf employees. Hearing all the crying and sobbing, Se-jun turned towards the baby bear and asked him if he was going to keep acting childishly, and asked if the baby bear remembered what Se-jun told him the other day. The baby bear indeed remembered and replied to Se-jun that he had to protect the queen bee sisters while the tower farmer was out. Hearing that, Se-jun asked the bear if even after getting such a great responsibility, he was still going to make a fuss about it. The bear calmed down, promising Se-jun to not make a fuss, but in return he wanted his dad to promise him that he will return quickly. Hearing that, Se-jun smiled and drugged the bear's fur, promising him that he will return as soon as possible, and all the baby bear had to do was just wait. The baby bear nodded, and this made the tower farmer happy. Suddenly, the wolf chief came behind Se-jun and advised him that they should get going, while he kept on addressing Se-jun as the Great Black Dragon. Se-jun agreed and climbed on top of the wolf chief, along with Theo on his shoulders and the black rabbit on the chief's head. Se-jun turned around to Ox 3 and Ox 4, telling them that they should depart along with the group as well, to the place where the Waypoint and the Minotaur king were. The mother and the baby bear said their goodbyes, while Se-jun departed towards the Waypoint of the 99th floor of the tower. As the scene shifts, we see that the traveling group is now in a desert-like place. As they were traveling, Se-jun smiled while looking at a faraway place, complimenting the wolf chief that he was fast. And due to it, they covered a huge distance in just a flash. Meanwhile, Theo and the black rabbit started rubbing their eyes, because the dust was making their eyes sting. Suddenly, Se-jun noticed a purplish dark aura and asked the group about what that was. To him, it felt like the place was a forest, but somehow it felt very dark and ominous. Looking at that place, Ox 3 told Se-jun that the forest was the same place where the jerks are. Se-jun was not able to understand what the ox was talking about. Hearing this, Ox 4 explained that there were several territories even on the 99th floor, and the territory they were heading to right now was the Minotaur territory. She even added that the place where the tower farmer was staying was the Red Firs territory, and the dark and purple forest in question was the territory of the corrupt beings of the West. Se-jun was amused by all this new information all of a sudden. The ox also told him that the corrupt beings were not like that in the beginning, but as they were heading towards the Waypoint now, the ox found it better for Se-jun to not know about the details yet. He just had to know that the forest was dangerous and that he did not have to go anywhere close to that place. Hearing about all this information, the tower farmer started pondering about what was so corrupt about the beings of the purple forest. He decided that he will ask the tower manager Aileen about it later. Suddenly, a ball of mud slammed onto Se-jun's face, making him lose his balance as he slammed down to the ground from the back of the wolf's chief. Seeing that, everyone ran toward Se-jun, asking him if he was all right. The wolf's chief started apologizing to Se-jun for being careless. The tower farmer removed all the mud from his face while telling the creatures that he was fine. But he was not able to comprehend where this mud came from. Ash looks around. We see that multiple minotaurs are eating the mud that was thrown towards Se-jun. At first, the tower farmer was shocked by this weird food cycle of the creatures, but then he realized that as there was nothing to eat in the wasteland, the ox had to fill their stomach with mud. And that was the whole reason why the Minotaur gets so excited when they see grass. Theo immediately climbed up to Sejun's head while the black rabbit called him out, asking him to get down from Sejun's face. But Theo declined, saying that he hates stepping on mud. Meanwhile, the wolf chief was still going on, apologizing to the great black dragon for his carelessness. On the other hand, Ox 4 was angry and immediately screamed at the Minotaur, asking them about who threw the mud at Sejun. Suddenly, a blonde ox came out of the group, getting surprised by seeing Ox 3 and Ox 4 back to the wastelands. It was a typical arrogant-looking thug who always gets beat up for being stupid. He arrogantly asked Ox 3 and Ox 4 about where they have been spending time amicably. Looking at Sejun and the other creatures, the arrogant ox asked Ox 3 about why he would bring such toys for someone so weak. He was referring Ox 4 indirectly, while asking Ox 3 to give the playthings to the group instead. But to this insult, the thug got a straight right hook onto his right cheek, which threw him off to the ground with a huge impact. Everyone was startled as they looked at the female ox, who proved that she was stronger than the arrogant and stupid creature. She calmed down and ordered Ox 3 that as there was no time, they should just go straight to the Minotaur King. The male ox started blushing all of a sudden, getting impressed by the female, but on the other hand, Theo and Sejun were in deep shock, again witnessing that Ox 4 was indeed scary. As the scene shifts, one of the Minotaur comes running towards the king, telling him that Ox 3 and Ox 4 are back, along with some strange-looking guys who accompany them. The king was a little confused by the description of the group, but he let them come in anyway. As soon as Sejun's group came to the king, the female ox started speaking, telling the king that they were back along with guests from the Red Fur's territory. Everyone was shocked to hear that the mysterious creatures and monsters were from the Red Fur's territory. But to this, the king smiled, as now he did not need to leave the Waypoint unnecessarily to meet the strange beings. He welcomed Sejun's group, referring to them as Red Fur's underlings, and he thought that Sejun was the white farmer rabbit. But suddenly, as Sejun was coming towards the king, he noticed that the tower farmer was not a white rabbit. But now he was confused about the type of creature Sejun was. Hearing that, the tower farmer and the cat merchant introduced themselves as Park Sejun, the tower farmer, and Theo, the wandering cat merchant. To this, the king was confused, remembering that he had never heard about a species named Park Sejun ever before in his life. But anyways, he decided to welcome them, because they had worked hard and came all the way to the Minotaur territory. The king even complimented the grass that he took, telling Sejun that it had a great taste. But the king had interpreted the situation a little wrong in his head. He thought that it must have been difficult to survive on the 99th floor when our boy had such weak powers. He thought that Sejun worked under the Red Fur and offered him a deal that if he was experiencing anything unfair, the Minotaur King shall save him and his friends from the Red Fur. Because it was the king's consideration for weak monsters like Sejun. So now, the king wanted the tower farmer to speak comfortably and not be afraid of him. But hearing all this nonsense, Sejun started correcting the king, telling him that he was mistaken about everything. Sejun corrected the king, saying that he did not work for the Red Fur, and instead, the bear and her child were helping him and working together. The second point was that Sejun didn't come to the king to ask to be saved from the unfair treatment. But instead, he wanted to get compensated for what the king did to his farm. He wanted the compensation for the stealing of the green onions from his field 3 days ago, unless the king wanted to be called a thief. Hearing that, the Minotaur King was now deeply frustrated and was full of anger. He was not able to comprehend about how such a weak creature was able to call the king a thief. He started screaming at Sejun and stomped at the ground, making multiple waves which were able to knock anyone off. But to this, Sejun caught his hat along with Theo and asked the king about what he should call him instead of a thief. Because even when the Black Minotaur were supposed to be the warriors of honor, the king was getting angry instead. The king was not even a little bit embarrassed about what he did and was putting all the blame on the tower farmer instead. Hearing that, even all the Minotaurs started whispering among themselves and started looking down on the king. Witnessing the situation getting out of hand, the king immediately calmed down, telling Sejun that there must have been some kind of misunderstanding. He explained to Sejun that as the protector of the Waypoint, the king had limits to his actions, and he just had to come towards Sejun's field in a rush, because he did not have much time left. The king added that he was obviously going to pay full price for the grass that he took from Sejun. He even stated that it was all obvious from the start, because the king was so generous. He stopped beating around the bush and came straight to the point, asking Sejun about what he wished for. He consoled Sejun, telling him that the king could give even a legendary-grade artifact or any rare item of the tower. But Sejun stopped him, asking the king if he could let the tower farmer use the Waypoint instead. The king was a little confused by this mere request of the small creature, but he agreed nonetheless, allowing Sejun to use the Waypoint if he wished so. The Minotaur king stood up from his throne, while Sejun and Theo were happy that they were finally able to get out of the 99th floor. As soon as they reached the Waypoint, they saw a huge blue crystal, which emitted a faint blue light. Somehow, even the crystal was floating above the ground. As soon as Sejun touched the crystal, multiple notifications popped up, telling Sejun that the tower waypoint of the 99th floor was finally being saved. The system started loading waypoints of other saved floors, but suddenly, the system told Sejun that it was not able to process any data because he did not have any saved waypoints other than the 99th floor. This meant that even if he wanted to, the tower farmer could not move to another floor. Looking at this shocked both Theo and Sejun, as all his dreams of getting out of the 99th floor were now shattered. Even the king wondered that, if Sejun was not born inside the tower, how did he came to the 99th floor directly? He explained to the tower farmer that external entities must register the waypoints on each floor, starting from the waypoint on the first floor to be eligible to move to the other floors. The king added that this was a predetermined rule of the tower because it was a limited invitation provided by the tower to outsiders. But as the 99th floor was the only waypoint that was on Sejun's list, he was not eligible to go to another floor, even if he wanted to. Sejun clenched his fists in sadness as he heard this heartbreaking revelation. A moment ago, he thought that he could go out from the tower, but now all the hope has disappeared for him as he dropped down to the ground, sitting on his knees, while Theo looked at him in disappointment. And with that, this chapter ends here. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button as today is like aim is 1,000 likes. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video until then. Thanks for watching.